She screamed at me over balsamic vinegar in front of guests. That's when I stopped loving her. 6 months later, divorce papers under a salt shaker. Me on a plane to Lisbon. She remarried fast. Vineyard wedding. Perfect until one guest's toast destroyed everything. Then she called me, screaming. I was 4,000 miles away, finally breathing. My name's Raymond Cole. I'm 54 years old, and 6 months ago, I did something most men my age only fantasize about during their morning commute. I divorced my wife of 28 years, liquidated everything I could carry in 2 suitcases, and moved to Lisbon, Portugal. No dramatic confrontation. No shouting match in the driveway. Just divorce papers under a coffee mug, my house keys on top, and a note that read, "Everything's yours. I'm gone." I was a commercial real estate developer back in Denver. Built strip malls, office complexes, the kind of structures that make cities look the same from coast to coast. Good money. Respect in the community. A beautiful house in Cherry Creek that my wife, Catherine, decorated like a magazine spread. From the outside, we looked perfect. From the inside, I was suffocating. Catherine worked as a luxury real estate agent. She sold multi-million-dollar properties to tech executives and oil money. And somewhere along the way, she started believing our life should match the lifestyle she was peddling. Nothing was ever enough. The granite countertops had to be replaced with marble. The marble had to be Italian. The Italian marble had to be from a specific quarry in Carrara that only 3 people in Colorado knew about. I stopped arguing around year 23. Started sleeping in my office around year 26. By year 28, I realized I was living with a stranger who happened to share my last name and my mortgage. We had 2 kids. Olivia is 27 now, works as an investigative journalist in Chicago. Sharp as a tack, inherited my skepticism and her mother's persistence. She saw through Catherine's act years before I found the courage to leave. Then there's Jason, 24, junior investment banker in New York. Smart kid, but he bought into his mother's version of reality. Thought I was the problem. Cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. All Catherine's words coming out of his mouth. The heart attack came 3 months before I left. Minor one. The kind that doesn't kill you, but whispers in your ear that the next one might. My cardiologist said the word stress 14 times in one appointment. I drove home that day, looked at Catherine screaming into her phone about staging a property, and realized something. I could die in this house, and she wouldn't notice until someone pointed out my body was blocking her walk-in closet. So I started planning. Quietly. Methodically. The way you plan anything important. I spent 6 months restructuring everything. My assets went into family trusts with Olivia as trustee. The properties got refinanced, layered with loans Catherine never knew existed. I made sure everything looked legitimate on paper, because it was legitimate, just strategically arranged. The house, the cars, the furniture, all hers, along with the debt, securing it all. The morning I left, Denver was still dark. I drove myself to the airport, parked in long-term, and didn't look back. By the time Catherine woke up and found my note, I was somewhere over the Atlantic, drinking terrible airplane coffee and feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Now I wake up to church bells in Alfama, drink espresso that actually tastes like something, and walk along the Tagus River watching ships that are going somewhere. I paint badly. I swim in the ocean. I've learned enough Portuguese to order wine and apologize for my terrible Portuguese. I haven't spoken to Catherine since I left. Didn't check her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends. I already knew how it would play. She'd grieve for a week, rage for 2, then find someone new to fill the void. And I was right. I got divorced and moved overseas. My ex-wife immediately married her new guy. I found out through a message from someone I barely remembered, but that's a story for later. Right now, I'm sitting on my balcony in Lisbon, watching the sunset turn the river into liquid gold, and I'm about to tell you what happened when Catherine's perfect new life collided with the past she tried to erase. Life in Lisbon had a rhythm I'd forgotten existed. No alarms. No conference calls. No Catherine's voice cutting through the morning, asking why I chose the wrong brand of organic coffee. Just me, the Atlantic breeze, and a city that had survived earthquakes and still knew how to take a breath. I'd been there 4 months when a message came through. I was at my usual spot, a small cafe in Barro Alto where the owner, Manuel, had stopped trying to correct my pronunciation and just smiled when I ordered. I was sketching the roofline across the street, something I picked up to keep my hands busy when my phone buzzed. Instagram DM. From Danny Reichert, a guy I knew back in college. We'd lost touch around the Clinton administration. His profile picture showed him graying at the temples, holding a golden retriever, looking satisfied with life. The message was short. Hey Raymond. Long time. Not sure if you care, but thought you should know. Catherine's getting married. Next month. Vineyard wedding up in Napa. Guy named Kenneth Bradshaw. Owns a bunch of car dealerships. Figured you'd want a heads up. Take care, man. I read it twice. Set my phone down. Picked up my espresso. The cup was warm against my palm. Solid. Real. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was curious. The way you're curious about a movie you walked out halfway through. Kenneth Bradshaw. I knew the name. Flashy guy. Always showed up at real estate industry events in expensive suits that were trying too hard. Drove a different luxury car every quarter like he was running a personal showroom. He'd flirted with Catherine at a charity gala 3 years ago. I remembered because she'd laughed too loud at his jokes, the kind of laugh that's meant to be noticed. I opened my laptop. Her Instagram was public, because of course it was. Catherine lived for visibility. The feed was exactly what I expected. Engagement photos that looked like they cost 5 figures. Her in white, him in navy, both of them holding champagne flutes against a sunset that was definitely photoshopped. The captions were poetry written by someone who'd never read poetry. When you know, you know. Finally found my forever. Some people are worth the wait. I scrolled through the comments. Friends congratulating her. Clients kissing up. A few brave souls asking variations of what happened to Raymond. Those comments have been deleted, but the gaps in the numbering gave them away. Then I saw the location. 7 Hills Vineyard. Napa Valley, California. Something clicked in my brain, cold and precise. I closed Instagram and opened my files. Took me 10 minutes to find it, buried in a folder labeled Old Projects. There it was. A brochure from 15 years ago. 7 Hills Vineyard. Investment opportunity. Catherine and I had driven up there one weekend, back when we still did weekends together. She'd hated it. Said it was too quiet, too rustic, not her style. I flipped through the PDF until I found the page I remembered. Section on event hosting. Technical specifications. And there, in small print under the acoustic engineering notes, outdoor venues may experience significant echo. Professional sound systems recommended for speeches and toasts. Test equipment advised. I sat back in my chair. Manuel came by with more coffee. I thanked him in terrible Portuguese. He laughed and patted my shoulder. The wedding was in 3 weeks. Catherine was marrying Kenneth Bradshaw at a venue with acoustics that could carry a whisper across 100 yards. And she'd just made it public knowledge, complete with venue details and a hashtag. I pulled up my contacts. Found a number I hadn't used in years. Richard Pelletier. Used to run a high-end catering company in San Francisco before he retired to Sonoma. I'd helped him restructure a deal that saved his business back in 2015. He told me if I ever needed anything, call. I called. He picked up on the 3rd ring, his voice warm and surprised. We caught up for 5 minutes. Then I explained what I needed. Not much. Just a small favor. A name added to a vendor list. 1 guest. Clean background. Legitimate reason to be there. Richard was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, low and understanding. You know what, Raymond, he said. I think I can help you with that. Consider it done. I thanked him. Hung up. Finished my coffee. The sun was setting over the Tagus, painting everything gold and orange. I wasn't going to the wedding. I didn't need to. But I was going to make sure it was memorable. Olivia called me 2 days after I spoke with Richard. It was early morning in Lisbon, which meant late evening in Chicago. She never called without reason. My daughter inherited my tendency to be efficient with words. Dad, she said when I picked up. No greeting. I saw Mom's Instagram. The wedding. Kenneth Bradshaw. You know about this. I walked out onto my balcony, phone pressed to my ear. Below, a street musician was setting up his accordion. I know. And what? And are you okay? Her voice softened slightly, the way it did when she was trying to read between my lines. I'm fine, sweetheart. Better than fine. Your mother's choices aren't my concern anymore. Silence on the other end. Then, Jason's going. He's standing up as one of the groomsmen. That stopped me. I set my coffee down. He's what? Kenneth asked him personally. Mom played it up as this big honor. Blending families. New beginnings. Jason bought it completely. He thinks this proves mom's moved on to something better. I close my eyes. My son, 24 years old, smart enough to analyze market trends, but blind to his mother's manipulations. And you? I got an invitation. Very formal. Very Catherine. I sent my regrets. She paused. Dad, I've been doing some digging. Kenneth Bradshaw's dealerships. Something's not right. His financial disclosures are clean, but the pattern's wrong. I've seen this before when I investigated that Ponzi scheme last year. This is why Olivia was the best investigative journalist in Chicago. She saw patterns where others saw noise. What did you find? I asked. Nothing concrete yet, but his expansion timeline doesn't match his revenue reports. He opened 3 new locations in 18 months. That requires serious capital. His credit lines are maxed. I think he's been using new investor money to pay old debts. Classic pyramid structure. How long until it collapses? 3 months. Maybe 4. There's a lawsuit brewing too. Former business partner claiming fraud. It's being kept quiet, but I found the court filings. I looked out over the Tagus. A cargo ship was making its way toward the Atlantic, slow and deliberate. Does your mother know? Of course not. She sees the cars, the properties, the lifestyle. She never looks under the hood. Olivia's voice turned harder. Dad, Jason's tied to this. If Kenneth goes down publicly, it'll splash on everyone associated with him. Jason's bank won't appreciate their junior analyst being connected to a fraud case. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said slowly, that someone should make sure the right information surfaces at the right time. Before Jason gets in deeper. I smiled. My daughter, 27 years old, and already thinking 3 moves ahead. You know I can't be involved in anything that looks like sabotage. I know, but you also taught me that truth doesn't need help. It just needs timing. She paused. I'm flying out there. To Napa. I told Mom I changed my mind. That I want to support her new beginning. Olivia. Dad, Jason's my brother. He's being an idiot, but he's my idiot. If this wedding's going to be memorable, I want to make sure he sees what's really happening. Before it's too late. I was quiet for a moment. Then, be careful. Always am. I could hear the smile in her voice. Oh, and Dad, that favor you called in with Richard Pelletier, the caterer, how did you? I'm an investigative journalist. It's literally my job. I saw the guest list edition. Clark Witherby. +1. Very subtle. She laughed. I like it. Old school. Elegant. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sure you don't. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. After she hung up, I sat on my balcony for a long time. The musician below started playing something melancholy and beautiful. Tourists stopped to listen. The sun climbed higher. My daughter was going to her mother's wedding. Not to celebrate. To document. And somewhere in Napa, a man named Clark Witherby was about to become the most important guest no one remembered inviting. Jason called 3 days before the wedding. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since I left. He'd sent one email, short and cold, saying he was disappointed in how I'd handled things. No questions. No curiosity about my side. Just judgment wrapped in Catherine's talking points. But I answered. Dad. His voice was stiff, formal. The voice he probably used with clients. Jason. Silence stretched between us like a canyon. Finally, he spoke. I'm calling because I think you should know. I'm standing up at Mom's wedding. Kenneth asked me personally. Olivia mentioned that. She did. He sounded surprised. She's coming too. Changed her mind last minute. I thought maybe you. I had nothing to do with that. Your sister makes her own choices. More silence. Then, Kenneth's a good guy, Dad. Successful. Treats Mom right. He's everything she deserves. The words hung there. Everything she deserves. Everything I wasn't. I bit down on my first response and chose my words carefully. I'm glad your mother's happy, I said. Truly. Are you? The challenge in his voice was clear. Because it seems like you just bailed. Walked away from everything. From us. I walked away from a marriage that was killing me, Jason. Not from you or your sister. Could have fooled me. You left a note on the counter like you were quitting a job. I stood up, started pacing. Your mother and I were together for 28 years. 23 of those years, I was trying to be enough. Trying to meet standards that changed every time I got close. I had a heart attack, Jason. Minor, but real. The doctor told me stress was going to finish what genetics started. So I made a choice. By running away. By saving my own life. My voice was harder now. And if you think that's weakness, then your mother taught you well. He was quiet. I could hear traffic in the background. New York noise. Jason, I said, softer now. I know Kenneth. Not well, but enough. Just promise me something. When you're standing up there watching your mother get married, pay attention. Not to what people say, to what they don't say. What's that supposed to mean? It means the best investors ask questions. They verify. They look at fundamentals, not just performance. I paused. You're good at that. Don't stop doing it just because it's family. I don't need career advice, Dad. I'm not talking about your career. I'm talking about your judgment. I'll walk back to the balcony. Kenneth Bradshaw's built something impressive. Very impressive. Ask yourself how he did it. Ask yourself if the math adds up. You're trying to poison this. I'm trying to protect you. There's a difference. From what? From being collateral damage when performance doesn't match reality. Jason was silent for a long moment. Then, I have to go. Rehearsal dinner's in a few days. I need to prepare my toast. Jason. Goodbye, Dad. The line went dead. I set my phone down. Looked out over Lisbon. The city was waking up fully now, filling with sounds and movement and life. Somewhere in New York, my son was angry at me for leaving. Somewhere in Chicago, my daughter was packing a bag and preparing to document a disaster. And somewhere in Napa Valley, Catherine was about to marry a man whose empire was built on a foundation that was already starting to split. I picked up my phone again. Sent a single text to Olivia. Keep an eye on your brother. Her response came immediately. Already on it. The rehearsal dinner happened without me, but Olivia sent updates like she was filing a breaking news story. Short texts. Clinical observations. No emotion, just facts. Arrived. Catherine looks nervous. Kenneth's overcompensating. Jason's toast was about new beginnings. Didn't mention you once. Clark Witherby just introduced himself to Kenneth. Said he's an old family friend. Kenneth bought it. That last text made me smile. I was sitting in my Lisbon apartment, drinking port and watching the river traffic. The image of Kenneth Bradshaw shaking hands with a ghost was satisfying in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Olivia called an hour later. I could hear background noise, music and conversation bleeding through. He's perfect, Dad, she said quietly. I could tell she'd stepped outside. Clark, mid-70s, looks like somebody's grandfather. He's got this whole story about knowing Catherine's family for back east. Complete fiction, but he sells it beautifully. I don't know anyone named Clark Witherby, I said carefully. She laughed. Right. Of course not. Anyway, Kenneth introduced him to Catherine. She looked confused for about 3 seconds, then just smiled and played along. You know how she is. Never admits she doesn't know something. How's your brother? The pause told me everything. He's all in, Dad. He gave his toast about how Kenneth represents everything a real man should be. Successful. Confident. Committed. The subtext wasn't subtle. And you? I smiled and clapped and played the supportive daughter. Then I spent 20 minutes in the bathroom going through public records on my phone. Kenneth's dealerships filed for an extension on their quarterly reports. That's never a good sign. His primary lender reduced his credit line last month. And there's a former partner who's about to file a civil suit for fraud. I sat up straighter. How soon? The filing date's set for 2 weeks after the wedding. But the preliminary documents are already circulating in legal circles. If Jason's bank catches wind of it before the wedding, they might start asking questions about his judgment. Does Catherine know any of this? Are you kidding? She's too busy planning the reception choreography. She actually has a timeline for when people are supposed to cry during her vows. I saw the document. It's color-coded. I could picture it perfectly. Catherine turning her wedding into a production. Every moment staged for maximum impact. What about Clark? What's his role in all this? He's giving a toast tomorrow. During the reception, he specifically requested a spot. Said something about honoring old friendships and new beginnings. The wedding planner ate it up. Catherine approved it without asking questions. And Kenneth. Kenneth thinks it's a nice gesture. You know, traditional. Classy. He has no idea what's coming. Olivia's voice shifted, became more serious. Dad, what exactly did you tell Clark to say? I didn't tell him anything specific. Just suggested he speak from the heart. About truth. About foundations. About making sure what looks solid really is solid. That's beautifully vague. I learned from the best corporate attorneys. She was quiet for a moment. Jason's sharing a room with one of Kenneth's business partners. Guy named Todd. Investment banker type. I overheard them talking about a deal that fell through last month. Kenneth needed capital fast. Todd said something about creative accounting. Did Jason react? He laughed it off. Said all successful people push boundaries. That's what separates winners from employees. Her voice turned bitter. Mom's taught him well. Just watch out for him tomorrow. When things get interesting. Define interesting. I think you'll know it when you see it. After we hung up, I walked out onto my balcony. Lisbon was settling into its evening rhythm. Somewhere across the Atlantic, my daughter was preparing to watch my ex-wife's perfect day develop complications. And somewhere in Napa Valley, a man named Clark Witherby was preparing to say things that needed to be said. I slept well that night, better than I had in years. The wedding was beautiful. Olivia sent photos. Catherine in an ivory gown that probably cost more than my first car. Kenneth in a custom tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped out of a luxury car commercial. The vineyard draped in white fabric and flowers. Everything perfect. Everything staged. The ceremony went smoothly. Vows that sounded like they'd been written by a greeting card company. Readings about love and partnership and forever. Jason stood beside Kenneth, smiling like this was exactly how life should look. Then came the reception. Olivia's text came faster now. Speech is starting. Catherine's maid of honor just cried on cue. Kenneth's brother made a joke about his expensive taste. Everyone laughed. Jason's up next. This should be painful. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then my phone rang. Dad. Olivia's voice was tight, urgent. You need to hear this. I'm recording. She must have held her phone up because suddenly I could hear the reception. Jason's voice came through clearly, amplified by the venue's excellent acoustics. Kenneth Bradshaw is the kind of man we should all aspire to be, my son was saying. He's built an empire through hard work and vision. He treats my mother like a queen. He's shown me what real success looks like. To Kenneth and Catherine, may your future be as bright as your past is forgotten. As your past is forgotten. The jab was clear. I was the past. The failure. The thing they'd moved beyond. Applause. Clinking glasses. Then Olivia's voice came back on. Clark's up now. Here we go. The crowd noise settled. I heard someone clearing their throat. Then a voice, older, measured, carrying the kind of authority that makes people listen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Clark Witherby, and I've known the Bradshaw family for many years. The lie was delivered with perfect confidence. I wanted to take a moment to celebrate this union, but also to speak about something important. Truth. The reception went quieter. I could hear it through the phone. Catherine, you look absolutely radiant. Kenneth, you've clearly made quite an impression. He paused. I've been in business a long time. Seen a lot of deals, a lot of partnerships, and the ones that last are built on solid foundations. Not appearances, not promises. Foundations. Another pause. Longer this time. So I want to propose a toast. To Catherine and her second chance at happiness. And to Raymond, wherever he is tonight. Probably somewhere quiet, probably painting, probably finally able to breathe. His voice carried across the vineyard like it was designed to. Catherine, I hope you're sure you traded up, darling. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you might have traded solid ground for quicksand. Dead silence. The kind that makes oxygen feel thick. But hey, Clark continued, voice lighter now, what do I know? I'm just an old man who believes in asking questions. Like, how does someone open 3 dealerships in 18 months without traditional financing? Or why does a successful businessman need to restructure his credit lines every quarter? Or what happens when the music stops and everyone's looking for a chair? I could hear movement now. Confusion. Someone trying to get to the microphone. Anyway, Clark said, wrapping up smoothly, to the happy couple, may your forever be louder than your past, and may you both get exactly what you deserve. Then the line went chaotic. Voices overlapping. Someone shouting. Music starting up suddenly. Too loud. Try to cover the disaster. Olivia came back on, breathless. Dad.
On camera. And here's the part that'll mess you up. This billionaire has been living as a homeless man, on and off, for 7 years. Testing people. Watching who stops. Who looks away. Who pretends not to see him. He told me he's met over 3,000 people this way. Only 11 ever helped. Sarah was number 11. And what happened next didn't just change her life. It exposed something about all of us that's honestly hard to watch. But stick with me. Because by the end of this story, you're gonna look at that homeless person you walked past this morning very, very differently. November 14th, 2019. Sarah Mitchell's car wouldn't start. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal. Cars break down. You call AAA, you get it fixed, life goes on. But when you've got $63 to your name, and you've already skipped 2 meals to make that money last, and you're living out of that car because you lost your apartment 2 weeks ago, a dead battery isn't an inconvenience. It's a catastrophe. 3 months earlier, Sarah had what most people would call a normal life. She was 31, working as a project coordinator for a construction company in Portland, Oregon. Nothing fancy, but stable. Enough to cover rent, groceries, her student loans. Then her mom got sick. Stage 3 breast cancer. Sarah's mom didn't have insurance. The kind of gap in coverage that happens when you're self-employed and premiums cost more than rent. So Sarah started helping. A little here, a little there, then the medical bills got serious. Chemotherapy, radiation, medications that cost $600 a pop. Sarah drained her savings in 5 weeks. Then she started putting it on credit cards. Then the credit cards maxed out. Her manager noticed she was distracted. Started showing up late because she was at the hospital. Had to leave early for her mom's appointments. They let her go in September. Performance issues, they called it. Sarah applied for unemployment. Got denied because technically she'd been fired for cause. She burned through her last paycheck in 10 days. Rent came due. She didn't have it. Her landlord gave her a week. Then the eviction notice came. So there she was, living in her 2004 Honda Civic, using gym memberships to shower, charging her phone at McDonald's, eating dollar menu items once a day to make the money last. And on November 14th, the car died in a Starbucks parking lot. Sarah sat there in the driver's seat, key in the ignition, listening to it click 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 uselessly. She tried 3 more times. Nothing. And then she just broke. She told me later that she sat there for 20 minutes, sobbing so hard she thought she might throw up. Not the pretty kind of crying. The kind where snot runs down your face and you can't catch your breath. Because it wasn't just the car. It was everything. The job. The money. Her mom, who was getting worse despite all the treatments. The crushing, suffocating weight of trying so hard and still losing. She looked at her phone. $63.18 in her account. A tow truck would cost at least $100. It started to rain. Sarah looked up through the windshield at the gray Seattle sky and thought, very clearly, I don't know how to do this anymore. That's when she saw him. There was an old man standing by the coffee shop entrance, completely soaked. He wasn't panhandling. Wasn't holding a sign. Just standing there, water dripping off his clothes, looking at the door like he was trying to decide whether he was allowed to go inside. Sarah watched him for a full minute. He had to be 70, maybe older. White hair plastered to his head. A jacket that might have been nice once but was worn through at the elbows. Jeans with mud on the knees. Boots with the soles separating. He looked lost. That's the only word Sarah could think of. Like he'd somehow ended up somewhere he didn't recognize and didn't know how to get home. And here's what Sarah told me, and this part's important. I saw myself in him. Not like metaphorically. I mean, I literally looked at this old man standing in the rain, and I thought, that's going to be me in 40 years. That's where this road ends if I can't figure something out. She said it terrified her. But it also made her feel less alone. Sarah grabbed her umbrella from the back seat. It was one of those cheap collapsible ones that flip inside out if the wind hits it wrong. But it was something. She got out of the car and walked over to him. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you trying to get out of the rain?" The man looked at her, startled. Like he wasn't used to being spoken to. "The coffee shop," Sarah continued. "Would you like to go inside?" I could buy you something warm. If you want." The man studied her face. Really looked at her. And Sarah said later that his eyes were the saddest thing she'd ever seen. You don't have to do that, he said quietly. I know, Sarah said. But it's freezing, and you're soaked, and honestly, I could use the company. The man hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. All right. Thank you. That's very kind of you. They went inside. Sarah ordered 2 coffees and a sandwich. The barista rang it up, $14.67. Sarah's hands shook slightly as she handed over her debit card. She was now down to $48. $48 to her name in the entire world. They sat down at a corner table. The man wrapped both hands around his coffee cup and closed his eyes, like he was trying to absorb every bit of warmth. I'm Sarah, she said. Robert, he replied. Most people call me Bob. Nice to meet you, Bob. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Bob opened his eyes and looked at her. You've been crying, he said gently. Sarah let out a shaky laugh. Yeah. Bad day. Want to talk about it. And maybe it was because he was a stranger. Maybe it was because Sarah had been holding everything in for so long that she felt like she might explode. But she told him everything. The sick mom. The medical bills. Losing her job. The eviction. Living in her car. The car dying an hour ago. The overwhelming, crushing sense that she tried as hard as a human being could try, and it still wasn't enough. Bob listened without interrupting. He didn't offer solutions or try to fix anything. He just listened, nodding occasionally, his expression full of compassion. When Sarah finished, Bob was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, My wife died 6 years ago. Cancer, like your mother. We had the best insurance money could buy, and she still suffered terribly at the end. Sarah's throat tightened. I'm so sorry. The worst part, Bob continued, wasn't watching her die. It was feeling powerless. Having all the resources in the world and still not being able to save her. I think I understand a little of what you're feeling. He took a sip of coffee. You know what she told me, 2 days before she passed? She said, Bob, suffering either breaks you or breaks you open. Make sure it breaks you open. I didn't understand what she meant at the time. But I think she was saying, pain can make you bitter, or it can make you kinder. You get to choose. Sarah wiped her eyes. I don't feel very kind right now. Mostly just tired. Bob smiled. And yet here you are, buying coffee for a stranger when you can barely afford to feed yourself. I'd say you're doing all right. They talked for another hour. Bob asked thoughtful questions about Sarah's background, her skills, what kind of work she was looking for. He had this way of making her feel heard, like her answers actually mattered. When it was time to go, Bob stood and extended his hand. Thank you, Sarah. Not just for the coffee. For reminding me that good people still exist. Take care of yourself, Sarah said. Bob smiled, and there was something knowing in it. Something Sarah didn't understand. You too, he said. Something tells me things are about to get better for you. Sarah got her car jumped by a kind stranger in the parking lot 30 minutes later. Small miracle. She drove back to the gym where she'd been parking at night, climbed into the back seat, and tried to sleep. She didn't think about Bob again. She had bigger problems. 2 days later, her phone rang. Unknown number. Sarah almost didn't answer. Could have been a debt collector. Could have been another rejection from a job application. But she answered. Is this Sarah Mitchell? Yes? Ms. Mitchell, my name is Jennifer Chin. I'm calling on behalf of Robert Harrison. He'd like to meet with you regarding a potential opportunity. Would you be available tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Sarah's mind went blank. I'm sorry, who? Robert Harrison. You met him 2 days ago? He asked me to reach out. Bob? Sarah said. The man from the coffee shop? Yes. Mr. Harrison would like to meet with you at our offices downtown. I'll text you the address. Sarah sat up in her car. Wait, what kind of opportunity? Is this a job? Mr. Harrison will explain everything when you meet. Is tomorrow at 2 p.m. acceptable? Yes. Yes, I'll be there. The second she hung up, Sarah Googled Robert Harrison, Seattle. The results made her stomach drop. Robert Thomas Harrison, founder and former CEO of Harrison Technologies, sold the company in 2008 for $1.8 billion. Current estimated net worth, $2.9 billion. There were hundreds of articles. Forbes features photos of him shaking hands with Bill Gates, meeting with senators, cutting ribbons at hospital wings that bore his name. Sarah scrolled through image after image. And there, in a photo from a charity gala in 2013, she saw his same face. Same eyes. Wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her car. That was Bob. The man she'd bought coffee for. A billionaire. Sarah told me she sat in her car for 2 hours, just staring at her phone, trying to process what was happening. Was this real? Was this some kind of joke? Why would a billionaire be standing in the rain outside a coffee shop? She didn't sleep that night. The next day, Sarah showed up 15 minutes early to the address Jennifer had texted. It was a sleek glass building in downtown Seattle, the kind with a lobby that echoes and makes you feel small. She was escorted to the 22nd floor. Corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. And there was Bob, looking nothing like the man from the coffee shop. Crisp white shirt. Slacks. Polished shoes. Every bit the billionaire, Sarah. He said warmly, crossing the room to shake her hand. I'm glad you came. Mr. Harrison, Bob, he corrected. Please. Sarah sat down, her head spinning. I don't understand what's happening. Bob sat across from her and folded his hands. I'm going to be honest with you, Sarah. What happened 2 days ago wasn't an accident. Sarah's heart started pounding. What do you mean? I do this regularly, Bob said. A few times a month, I dress down, and I go out into the city. I sit on benches. I stand in the rain. I ride public transit. And I observe how people treat someone they think is homeless. Someone they think can't do anything for them. He leaned back in his chair. I've been doing this for 7 years, Sarah. Since my wife died. Do you know how many people have stopped to help me in that time? Sarah shook her head. 11. Out of thousands of people who've walked past me. 11. You were number 11. Sarah didn't know what to say. Bob continued. I started this after Margaret passed because I felt disconnected from reality. I'd spent 40 years in boardrooms and country clubs, surrounded by people who wanted something from me. Money. Connections. Access. I realized I had no idea who people really were anymore. Who I really was. He stood and walked to the window. Margaret used to volunteer at homeless shelters. She'd come home and tell me stories about the people she met. Their dignity. Their resilience. She'd say, Bob, these are people who've lost everything, and some of them are still kinder than the millionaires at your fundraisers. After she died, I wanted to understand what she meant. So I started, testing people, I suppose. Seeing who would help someone who couldn't help them back. He turned to face Sarah. Most people don't. And I don't judge them for it. Everyone's busy. Everyone has problems. I understand that. But then there's people like you. People who are barely surviving themselves and still stop to help. That's not just kindness, Sarah. That's character. That's the kind of person I want in my life. Bob returned to his desk and pulled out a folder. I run a foundation now. After I sold Harrison Technologies, I wanted to focus on giving back. We fund emergency assistance programs, job training, housing initiatives. We help people who've fallen through the cracks. He slid the folder across the desk. I'm looking for a new director of outreach. Someone who understands what it's like to need help. Someone with empathy, integrity, and the ability to see people the way Margaret taught me to see them. Sarah opened the folder. Inside was a job description. And a salary that made her vision blur. $125,000 a year. I don't have experience with nonprofits. Sarah said, her voice shaking. I don't have the qualifications for. You have the only qualification that matters. Bob interrupted. You have a good heart. Everything else can be learned. He leaned forward. Here's what I know about you, Sarah. You're at the lowest point of your life. You're scared, exhausted, and out of options. And when you saw someone you thought might be suffering too, you didn't think about yourself. You thought about them. That's rare. That's precious. That's exactly who I need leading this work. So what do you say? Sarah told me that she started crying right there in his office. Big, ugly, grateful tears that she couldn't hold back. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll do it. Bob smiled. Good. We start Monday. Then he pulled out his checkbook. And this, he said, writing quickly, is for your immediate expenses. Get your car fixed. Get a place to live. Pay your mother's medical bills. Consider it a signing bonus. He tore out the check and handed it to her. $250,000. Sarah stared at it. I can't, this is too much. It's not nearly enough, Bob said quietly. But it's a start. I met Sarah last year at a Harrison Foundation event. She's now the executive director. Under her leadership, they've helped over 22,000 people. Her mom beat cancer. Lives in a nice apartment that Sarah pays for. And Sarah still carries that umbrella in her car. The cheap one that flips inside out. When I asked her why, she said, because I never want to forget what it felt like to have nothing. And I never want to stop seeing people the way Bob taught me to see them. Bob is 78 now. Still healthy. Still doing his walks. He's found 6 more program directors the same way he found Sarah. And he told me something I can't stop thinking about. People ask me why I don't just hire headhunters. Why I don't post job listings and review resumes like a normal person. And I tell them, resumes show me what people have accomplished. But sitting in the rain shows me who they are. And character, true character, is worth more than any credential. So here's my question for you. Who would you be if nobody knew your name? If you had nothing to offer and nothing to gain? Would you be the person who walks past? Or the person who stops? Because that billionaire you just heard about, he's watching. Maybe not him specifically, but someone is. Someone's always watching who we are when we think it doesn't matter. And it turns out, that's when it matters most. If this story changed how you see the world, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you see someone who needs help, stop. Thanks for watching.